Cara Meeker. I am the chair. With me tonight are members Barb Higgins, Liz Boucher, and Jim Richards. From the district, we have Tim Herbert and Karen Fisher-Anderson. Tonight, we are going to be working on two policies. One, the first that we'll work on tonight is policy 542.1. This is the second draft. We visited this originally in September, and we'll be looking at changes that we had requested at that meeting. After that, we will work on policy 262, which is a first draft. It is the New Hampshire Parental Bill of Rights. It is responsive to a change in the RSA effective July 1, 2025. I am happy to hand it over to Karen to sort of guide us through this journey.
Okay,
but actually, did you give Jim the clean version?
I don't think I did yet.
So everybody should have two versions.
Yeah.
One has yellow and green on
I don't
it.
think I gave it to him yet. We can share.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Karen
so,
brought with her a clean version of this copy.
yep, so the colorful copy that you have in front of you, with the yellow and the green. The yellow was from our last meeting on 9/12. No, I believe it was 9/17 is what my date says. The yellow were my original changes, and then after our meeting, I went back in and I made changes from your direction, some cross-outs. The green then became the additional. So, for example, as you can see under definitions, school day, we wanted to define, and so that was added. But district-owned or district-provided devices, which was number 3, we decided to do away with. So your first copy has the changes, as I said, from the first meeting, and then your inputs, cross-outs. And then just to make it a little easier to read so your head doesn't spin, the draft I just gave you is that without, is what's left on the pages when we take out all the line throughs and do away with the colors. Okay, so it may be easier to read or refer back to, I don't know, but I can pretty much walk through the biggest, as I said, were the green ones that you all wanted added. If you need time to look at those or have any questions, I'm happy to answer those or tell you where some of that language came from if anybody's curious.
Yeah.
I think the overall goal the last time was pare it down. We don't make, let's keep it. We can give more guidance in our handbooks, our student parent handbooks, that principals can get involved from that level for each of the levels of the different schools, and less is more.
Yep, so I'll just piggyback off of that to say, it's not, if I remember right, there were some recommendations from the New Hampshire School Board Association that sort of went beyond what we had expected to see in terms of just sticking to the bell-to-bell RSA. And so I'm sure the recommendations from the New Hampshire School Board Association are good, or good for some districts, but we had hoped for just a very simple policy that addressed that bell-to-bell specifically. So you'll see in this draft, there's a lot of stricken language, and I think that's because Karen has done what we've asked, which is sort of just pull out language that really isn't relevant to bell-to-bell specifically. Does anybody have any memories or questions from the last meeting that they want to bring up before we look at the clean copy? Because I think that's probably...
I would just stress that when we did this, we discussed how this is a policy, K through 12, and it needs to be flexible for all grades, and that's why we did, create a general policy that is more specific to the RSA than what was recommended.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And this is, I don't want to add more work to the policy, but what about school-sponsored, like, sports practices or extracurriculars like, French club or drama club or whatever might happen after school? Is that just like it used to be? Teachers can say,
I would say discretion of the club, and I mean for the reasons of your coordinating rides, it's outside the school day.
Right.
We may not have an office open for kids to go in and use a phone, so that is per the expectations of your club advisor.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't need to be
But
policy.
The building would put that in their guidelines, co-curricular handbook and whatnot. That we would leave that up to the building to decide.
Perfect.
And just as a follow-up, that isn't required by the state.
That is not required in the RSA.
I believe the RSA addresses field trips
Field trips,
So
yep.
during the school day, field trips count as part of the
Instructional
class.
hours,
Yeah.
during your
Right.
instructional
Because it's bell
time
to
of the
bell. That
day.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
extracurriculars are after the bell typically, so.
Yeah, and I think the original version might have had something having to do with taking photos at sports activities, having phones at after-school activities that I think,
It did,
It-
under consequences and violations under D, and we said, yeah, no, let's not do that in this particular.
yeah. And I think particularly because we all know that opens a can of worms around personal use. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but the feedback I'm getting, like at Runlet, is that this is going very well.
Right.
That the kids are intuitively understanding the spirit of the law / instruction. You know, they're not thinking about the law, but they're hearing the rules, and it sounds like the vast majority are following them, and they sort of innately understand what the expectation is. So I'm feeling very good about like a nice, simple, clean policy that doesn't need to dig too deep.
I echo one of our recent principals meetings. They were like, it's the best thing. It's the best thing right now. And I was at a regional superintendent's meeting where we had some state reps there, and they asked us how it was going. Around the table, resounding, every superintendent shared this was a great move. So, but we got to. I think the general basic policy is the way to go because we're K through 12.
Right, right.
Yeah, so, does anybody have any questions? Do you want to take a minute to read the clean copy so everyone's feeling good about the way that it's now laid out?
No, and what I like about it is it's easy to read the policy and see how you'd carry it out. It's not one of those like, okay, now let's make believe we have to enforce this. And it's simple.
Yep, I agree.
One thing, I just had a grammatical
Yeah, what's up?
change at the top. Then the purpose statement, the district's committed to providing students with a learning environment, making sure that everything in that series has the same verb tense. So environment that is free from distraction, fosters deeper student engagement, improves academic performance, and ensures something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Pick a tense and stick with it.
Improves.
And ensures.
Ensures.
So the district, after the change, the district is committed to providing students with a learning environment that is free from distractions, fosters deeper student engagement, improves academic performance, and ensures classrooms are dedicated to learning, collaboration, and student well-being.
Much better.
Very good. Thank you for that. If people are feeling good about this, I think
Good.
we can entertain a motion to move to the full board for first reading.
So moved.
Yeah, okay, second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I like it. Good job.
Who made the first? I was,
Liz
Liz,
made the
okay.
motion, Barb seconded.
yeah. Great.
Thank you for your work on this, you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. So, we'll get that moving on. Perfect. All right. Then the second policy we wanted to take a look at this evening is your parental bill of rights, 262. So, some of this language, and I looked at, obviously, I always look at the New Hampshire School Board Association. Interestingly, they did not have, and they did not have a purpose, and I've tried to format, or stay with our formatting with regard to a purpose, and then where necessary, definitions. They had neither in this case. And when I went back and I looked at the actual House bill, I found what I was looking for. So that first sentence in there under purpose comes from, in case you're wondering, the actual bill itself. Let me see if I can find it. It might have been page 12. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. And it's number, for any of you, it's under paragraph 3. So I just want to make that's where that came from. The right to, parents have the right to access, be notified of, provided with all information relating to health, well-being, educational progress of their minor children, in their custody and control of, and then I personalized it to Concord School District. And then because there's some repetition of terms in here, I wanted to be sure that we made it clear to everybody for the purpose of this particular policy what the definitions were. So that's where I defined parent, minor, school, and school personnel, which also come out of the Parental Bill of Rights bill itself, HB 10. It's on page 11. I can pass this if any of you want to see it, but it is pretty much, it is word for word. And then when you start with paragraph Roman numeral 2, that is word for word from the New Hampshire School Board Association with a couple of minor exceptions that I believe are highlighted in yellow for you all, I hope, or if not, I can explain them. Most of them are grammatical. Oh no, like non-academic under 10 should have been hyphenated, and then I try to be gender neutral all the way through. Anytime they say his or her, it was changed to their. Other one formatting change under para 15 talked about 10 business days, and it was brought up if you write it out 10, you should put the number in there, so I did. And then finally, under paragraph 4, dissemination on page 3, the last change I made was under the 189B5 of the RSA, we have to post the part 2, which are these actual 1 through 19 specific bill rights, if you will, in our student, we call it a student and parent handbook, not just a student handbook. And unfortunately, at this point, I know we're working towards it, but we don't have an employee handbook. Whether we want to leave that out or put it in for future, I just bring that to your attention. But other than that, it's it's word for word from the New Hampshire School Board Association go by, and consistent with the bill.
I would love to take a step back and ask sort of a broader question.
Sure.
Which is that the Parental Bill of Rights, B5, I think Rome 4, or whatever the language of the B4 is what is actually in our policy, the New Hampshire Parental Bill of Rights. Why are we creating a policy that speaks word to word to an RSA that doesn't ask us to create a policy to do so?
I can only tell you that it is, and this won't make you feel any better, priority required by law. So they don't want to, there are private rights of action now from parents and students if any of these rights are violated. And so I think they want to make sure that there is clear dissemination, not only on our website or in our handbooks and in our annual report of what those rights are, and that we're aware of them. And to your point, as we go through these, we have many policies that also already include a lot of the stuff that's listed as. So I'm going to tell you it's a notice requirement, because the legislature was so clear. This has been going on for a long time between parental rights versus right to privacy with the kids, and where do the two cross? And so
And I hear you. I guess my question is, we have many RSAs that relate to education,
Yep.
right? And we don't necessarily generate policy language for every single RSA.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
This RSA, it has a notification requirement specific to what's in the policy,
Right.
which is that this list of things in the RSA needs to be disseminated in the annual report, on the district website, and in the student handbook.
Correct.
But as far as like policy that we use to guide us, I guess I'm unsure why the policy is needed as is, I guess is my question. Because to your point, so many things in this are actually addressed in other policies.
I'm going to say ease of reading, and it gets even worse a little bit, Cara, because there's a partner policy here, and it's called parental notification of and involvement in student welfare. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I wanted to ask you all for is, oh, wait a minute, no, they are separate. Wait a minute. Yeah, so we have those two policies, each of them separate and priority required by law. And the only thing that the other policy says, so you've got the one that enumerates the specific rights, and I didn't copy this one for you yet, but this one just basically is 2 paragraphs that say the district will not adopt policies, procedures, or student support firms that prohibit district personnel from answering questions from a parent guardian about their students' mental, emotional, physical health, sexuality, blah, blah, blah. So again, this is the generalized, parents have a right to all the information, and this is the specific, hey, let's go through the enumerated rights. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if down the road we can combine these instead of having 2 separate ones. But this was really brought on by the legislature this year about notice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be clear what you can and can't do.
I have a question. Under B5, I read this as they're asking you to create a policy to promote parental involvement in the school and have a plan, a procedure, what those procedures are. That's the policy.
I agree.
Not just reiterate the RSA.
Right, so that was, to Liz's point, that's exactly what my next question was gonna be, that if you look at 189B5, there's actually explicit instructions to create policy.
Right.
That includes a list of required procedures that is separate from the dissemination of the parental Bill of Rights.
Right, and we already have them. We have 683, for example. I went through and looked at all of our policies to line them up. And for example, parental involvement in education, and it goes through, and that's priority required by law. So I think, again, it's repetitious, but we don't want to be accused of not putting out notice
No,
and
I hear that.
compliance.
So let me just say, 189B5, each school shall, in consultation with parents and school personnel, develop, adopt, and promulgate publicly a policy to promote parental involvement in the school. Such policy shall include a plan for parental participation in schools, I'm abbreviating, a procedure for a parent to learn about a child's course of study, procedures for objecting to instructional materials, procedures to withdraw a child from any portion of health education,
Right.
procedure for them to learn about the nature and purpose of clubs, and a procedure to learn about parental rights and responsibilities under the law. So, to Liz's point, I read it the same way, where we have this parental Bill of Rights that exists in the RSA with dissemination requirements, but not a policy requirement. But then the very next section
Yeah, it tells us.
has an explicit instruction on what policy to create. Are you saying that so there's A, B, C, D, E, and F, do you think, does the district think, that we already have policies in place that cover each of these procedures that we're now being required by law to create as part of a parental involvement plan?
I will tell you that, yes, I do believe we have, if not all of them, very close to all of them. Some of these are newer, like 5, I'm just picking 5 on page 1 about promptly receive accurate, truthful, complete disclosure regarding any and all matters related to their minor child. That's not necessarily, laid out in some of our policies per se, but when you look at to be informed of disciplinary policies and procedures, for example, we have policy 540 and 543, which is our student disciplinary and due process rights. When we talk about instructional materials and parents' right to inspect, we have 650, which we've already worked on, that talks about parental objection. And then we have the removal if you don't want your kids involved in the sex ed. So I could do some more research into the legislative history, but it seems that, again, I fall back on, I think they want to put notice out there to the parents in the overall, and then that's why we put all of the additional school board policies that relate to these individual rights on the back so the parents can go right to those if they want those.
So do you think that the policy as is sufficient for covering the instruction of 189B5 regarding promulgating a policy that includes a list of these procedures A through F?
I do, but I'm relying on the guidance of policy writers at the New Hampshire School Board Association who are far smarter than I am. I do.
I'm gonna put it to the committee. If you've had a chance to read it, how do we feel about it?
I mean, the only thing I see is the dissemination. Are we creating a policy that says pursuant on RSA 189B5, we direct the superintendent to disseminate this in X, Y, and Z? That's the only thing that I see in policy, if we're saying we already have it.
Well, we have
All of these.
bits and pieces all over the place, but that is very specific to the delineated rights.
So then I feel as though we need to have a separate policy that explains A, B, and C, D, where we would find those in other policies.
Well, we do. We put them in the back of this policy as continual, or I can put them right in.
But I think listing the Bill of Rights, is just basically putting an RSA into our policy.
Yep.
Instead of just citing the RSA that people can go to, and we also have to put it in our handbooks and all of that. So It's
Yeah.
already there to be looked at.
Okay, I'm a parent, and I'm frustrated that my kid got in trouble or whatever, and no one told me. And I'm like, where are the policy, where are my rights as a parent? Where can I go on your website? Well, if it's this, you can go to this policy, if it's this, so how I look at this is just one place where parents can go and find it.
But
That's
it's gonna
the-
be in the annual report, the district's website permanently, and in every student handbook. I
This will
mean,
be in there?
The RSA,
the-
that's what it's instructing
This
us to do.
exact
The
thing.
bill.
So
Right.
this is the RSA.
Yep, that's the policy, yep.
So this is a policy.
Okay, then I would
That
agree.
is the RSA.
When looking at how is this gonna work with a parent that might not be super well-educated or this or that, where do I find a list? I just wanna see if my problem's on the list. There just needs to be a list.
Go on the website,
Right.
search it, and it will, should pop up right on our website instead of having to go into policy,
Correct.
which no one, I mean, I'm saying
No, I
anyone
want
here.
everybody to check out policy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
anyone who's listening, do you utilize the policy on the website?
I was gonna say, will you look at policy 262?
Right, and like
As
try to
opposed to
scroll
just looking at the
through
website.
that.
Well, I know even
it's
for me,
improved.
sometimes I find that overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, what am I,
Right.
It isn't, sometimes our website isn't the easiest to navigate.
It's getting easier.
Or to Google search and that sort of thing, so that would be why,
So it's
I would-
literally
but as long
telling
as-
us
as
to
long-
plaster this on the front door of each school.
Right.
Is what it's telling
okay,
us
well
to
then
do.
let's just do
Well,
that.
but I appreciate Barb's point, which is that this is in the spirit of inclusion of materials in all of the locations people can find.
Right.
I wanted to have this conversation just to exercise our brains a little around, like, what is our role in just flunking RSA into policy?
Right, that's a slippery slope, I think.
Right, if it's not necessarily attached to a policy directive, because
Yeah, the only directive is
is the
E5.
dissemination.
Because then we should put every single
Yeah, then- yeah.
RSA in every policy,
Right,
instead
right.
of just citing it within the
Right.
RSA. I mean, within the policy.
And I will say that if the state is asking us to basically word for word describe the parental bill of rights as it is stated in the RSA, I do think that we need to include 189B6, which is exceptions, because I think that it's all tied together, right?
Right.
That if you're gonna say, here's what your rights as a parent are, but also there are exceptions. And I think that if we're gonna go to the lengths of listing out all of it, that we should include the exceptions as well, so that it's all inclusive. It's as informative as possible, and it's short, so it
I mean,
wouldn't
and
lengthen it.
applicability could also, I mean, if you want to.
No, stop it, we're not putting applicability in there.
There's a whole bunch that really could.
Stop with the big words.
What does the applicability say?
No provision of this chapter is meant to restrain or interfere with any state or local law enforcement agency investigations of
that's
criminal
true. We can
violations of New
include
Hampshire law.
Yeah. So there's that. Not, I mean, I know we try not to make policies longer, but I think if we're gonna go all in on the meat of the RSA, it should probably include all of that
Except- yeah,
language.
yeah.
And maybe the bill, I mean, the bill itself, goes into it all too, as far as the exceptions and then violations. We don't want to necessarily tell parents they can sue us. Again, I get back to the notice requirement. I think that's what this is all about. And then they even give you the clear and convincing evidence standard, in case, a parent brings a claim, money damages, declaratory or adjunctive relief if you violate. So, I can go back to Will Phillips, our policy writer, the policy writer, and ask why he chose to go this way, but, that's.
Well, no, I mean, I think, I wanted to have the discussion because I think it's important to have it, which is why are we including language? If technically they're not telling us we have to, they're telling us we have to put it in these 3 places, but they're not directing us to create a policy in which to list the parental bill of rights. I actually see it as they're directing us to create a policy that is separate from, in addition to
Yeah.
the parental bill of rights, that has specific instructions on procedures that we need to.
Then, that goes back to Barb's point, if we were to create a policy like that, then we are putting it all in one place, so
Right.
people don't have to be like, okay, so this goes to this policy
Right,
for A,
right,
this to
right,
B, this to
right.
C. So to your point, then I would think that we should be creating a separate policy to address everything it's directing us to do.
Right, and then it's just ease of access.
And we can cite our other policies, but
Right.
easy to access.
Right.
Well, and by doing that, by citing the other policies on the back as your attached policies that pertain to each of these, then they could go and look those up, and that's done on the back of this. But I'd hate to tell you how long this policy would have to be if we were going to include what the meat of the other policies involved are for each of them.
Well, not everything in the parental bill of rights, just A through F from
Right.
189B5.
Yep.
So it could be an abbreviated version to inform parents that a policy, an extensive policy does exist on this matter, that it's part of what we're calling the parental involvement plan, which essentially this is what the legislature has asked us to do, right? Am I reading that right?
The parental involvement, promote parental
Promoting
involvement in
yeah.
school.
Which I think we have done, as I said, in parental participation, in our potential participation policy. Boy, there's a lot of P's.
Too many P's.
Too many P's. So, for example, if I can share with you all, when I go through what's listed in our policy under 2, when you go through, 1 through 19, and again, in the dissemination, we have to list 1 through 19 in our annual report and on our website, in our handbook, so on and so forth. Just to make sure I get where you all are going. For example, when I start looking, as I said, at 6, where you're talking disciplinary policies and procedures, that's 540 and 543.
No, so Karen, we're looking at 189B5.
Yep, I am too. It's right here.
So 189B4 covers that laundry list, the 19-item
Right,
list
right.
that's in the parental bill of rights.
Yeah.
Those have proper citations. That's really just notice. That it sounds like you would, in addition to the 3 places that it needs to be disseminated, that you would like a policy that directs us to tell the superintendent to disseminate. Fine. But then we also have this very specific direction to develop, adopt, and promulgate publicly a policy to promote parental involvement in school that includes paragraphs A through F.
Right.
So they are related to what we're seeing in items 1 through 19 in the previous section of the law, but they, for whatever reason, have directed us specifically to create policy that brings all of these procedures in under a single.
Yeah, and that's a unique and creative reading, but I'm going to tell you, the New Hampshire School Board has not formulated such a policy. That's where this came from, and they're the ones that guide the districts in proposed policies, and I think if that were the intent, they would. And I'm happy to follow up with
Can we
Will.
ask them?
Absolutely. Will Phillips is the
If-
policy
if
writer.
they have,
I go through it all.
contemplated it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just attended the fall policy legislative update, and no such policy was listed as one of the ones that has just come into law. But it's a really interesting interpretation, so I am happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like, and I can create the question that we can
Yeah.
send to them, which essentially in my mind, and the committee can edit as you will, but does the NHSBA feel that a policy containing the language of 189B4 is sufficient to cover the requirement in 189B5?
Okay.
Simplify, simplify, simplify.
And when we have that answer, I think that will be the time we can continue to work on this.
Yep.
Because language-wise, there's really not much to do, right? We've plopped the RSA in the policy. We can all have our opinions about how the legislature wrote it. But it is what it is. Other than to say, I do think that it would be,
Because I don't see,
Helpful
this
to
says
have
each
exceptions.
school board shall publish the parental bill of rights as set forth, blah, 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 in their annual reports, lists all these. It doesn't say we'll publish it in their own policy.
I know, I agree.
Okay.
But I also understand that to have a brief policy that directs the superintendent to disseminate the policy per the RSA, that could be just something that we do. unless the School Board Association and their band of lawyers tells us that by printing the parental bill of rights in our policy,
We're all set.
that we're all set and we do not have to address.
It's like a policy for a policy. It's like a pill
Yeah, but-
for the side effect of another pill.
It's a policy turducken.
It's like, good God.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I have my opinion about it, but I'm trying not to be so bossy, so we'll see what the School Board Association.
As long as I know where to look,
Yeah.
Right.
find the
Yeah,
policy
as
as
long
an
as you know
angry
where to
parent
go.
that I'm looking for, you know, that's,
Does anyone else have any comments, questions about the language of the policy as has been presented in the first draft? And are we happy tabling this until we get a response from?
yeah, I think
I'd like
table,
to make a
Yes, I
motion to
am.
table this
And I'll
until we
se-
get a response from New Hampshire School Board Association.
and I'll second it.
And
All
Karen,
in
you-
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
What I like about this is it's a very clear, succinct list. As long as this is findable, why do we have to do a million other things?
Well, because then we'd have to cite our RSAs
Yeah, right.
for every, we'd have to
Right.
rewrite them all in the
Right,
policies.
Right.
All right. I'm just making
I do
note.
have a methodology under the House bill, if it's a framework for notice and report violations of such rights and consequences for affirmative findings of violations. Does not impose additional requirements on school districts that would result in, so Cara, if I understand you correctly, you'll go ahead and forward me the question that you'd like them to go ahead and to answer with regard to the requirement.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, my computer just froze. All right, I will put that on my to-do list. I'll send it tonight before I forget. Do we have anything else on the agenda? Is there any policy or questions, concerns that anybody has related to policy or communications that they want to bring forward tonight?
Could we talk a little bit about where we want to go next? Because I have a queue of policies that people are, we've got the whistleblower protection that's been out there for a while that Kathleen had wanted to start, and that's there. Jack Dunn brought back the facility usage agreement because he's got some financial concerns now from the tax people, and he'd like some additional language added to it.
Okay.
So we have
Can we
that
have
one.
that one first?
Yeah, that
Yes,
seems
Yeah.
like
that
it's
sounds
Yeah, yeah.
important.
Yeah,
important.
that's an
Does he
important
have a
one.
draft floating around, or does he have
Well,
a
it's only a
proposal?
one-paragraph insert, but I wanted to ask Jack to come and explain it because it's very tax savvy.
Yep.
Did you see it, Tim? Yeah.
Can we put him on the agenda for next meeting to have him present?
December.
Yeah. And then there's some new, there's the bullying, cyberbullying policy that needs to be updated. As I said, I have I have a list of them, so do you want to set a goal for 2 policies per meeting, or how do we want to
So,
proceed?
We've had discussions about this before, which is that we will handle what is required of us. So if you have a policy that is ready for review,
Yeah.
give it to us, right? Because let's say we have 10 things on the agenda,
Yeah.
and we get through 2, 3 of them, then we're good. Now we know we've had enough time to get through those things. If they go fast, there's another one ready for
Right.
us.
So
right?
create the list.
Yeah.
And have them ready
Create
to
the
go.
list,
Ready to go.
and
You got
if
it.
there is a draft for us to see,
Yep.
That gives us flexibility too on what to do first, like.
There's a couple of them in the box already, ready to go. So, in the
Yeah.
folder.
because from, I think, our perspective, we'd rather have too much than too little.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get everybody in the same room. So if there's opportunity, like for instance.
Because like right now, we could do another one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have 20 solid minutes before we start panicking around parent pickups and stuff. And so if there was something we just wanted to review real quick and it happened to be in our file, awesome.
Yeah. AIs.
And I also don't want to say we're going to do 2 per meeting, because there are times when we've worked on one, and it was very important
Yes.
for us to spend the entire time
On the one policy,
one very
yeah.
complex policy. I'd rather do that and get it right
Yeah.
than to try to force 2 in the same meeting. And if we can get 3 or 4 in the meeting, all the better.
Right. I mean, I would pat ourselves on the back if we got through 4 in a meeting.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
But, I mean, I think we did pretty good today. I think these look great. Good questions, good discussion. And for now, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Well, I'm giving this one to Jim.
We've been hogging them.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:08.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your work done on